Dr. Maya Angelou, a poet, a writer, a teacher, an actress, a singer, a dancer, Hollywood's first female black director, a civil rights activist, and a mother. She was a spirited woman at heart and an inspiration to many that came after her.
Many people wonder where my secret lies.
Born in St. Louis, Missouri on April 4, 1928, as Margaret Annie Johnson, she was later nicknamed Maya by her older brother Bailey Jr. She was born to Bailey Johnson, a doorman, and Vivian Baxter Johnson, a nurse. Maya had a very tough childhood. Her parents divorced when she was 3. Then she was sent off with her brother to Stamps, Arkansas to live with their paternal grandmother, Mrs. Annie Henderson, and their uncle Willie. It is here where she learned the times table and how to read. She read black authors like Langston Hughes, W. E. Du Bois, and Paul Laurence Dunbar, as well as canonical works by William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, Edgar Allan Poe, and Rudyard Kipling. When she was 7 and her brother was 8, the children's father came to Stamps without warning and returned them to their mother's care in St. Louis. At the age of 8, while living with her mother, Angelou was sexually abused and raped by her mother's boyfriend, a man called Freeman, and the man was found guilty but was jailed only for 1 day. 4 days after his release, he was murdered, probably by Angelou's uncles. Feeling guilty, Maya became mute for almost 5 years, talked only to her brother, believing, as she stated, "I thought my voice killed him. I killed that man because I told his name. And then I thought, I would never speak again because my voice would kill anyone." After a few months of her silence, Maya and Bailey were sent back to Stamps, Arkansas. It was during this time that Maya started to consume more books. Eventually, Maya started to speak after an educated African-American woman by the name of Mrs. Bertha Flowers took her under her wing and encouraged her to speak by reading books aloud. She is among the many that has strong influence on Maya. She taught her to be intolerant of ignorance and understanding of illiteracy and to value home sayings as they are collective wisdoms of generations, and instilled in her a love for poetry. In fact, Maya describes her as the measure of what a human being can be. Angelou graduated at top of her 8th grade class. She then attended George Washington High School in San Francisco, being one of the only 3 black students. When she was 14, she was awarded a scholarship to California Labor School, where she studied drama and dance. In 1944, after a short-lived high school relationship, 16-year-old Angelou gave birth to a son, Clyde Johnson, later known as Guy Johnson, a poet like his mother. After giving birth, she worked a number of jobs to support herself and her son. She worked as a streetcar conductor in San Francisco, becoming the first African-American and the first female to do so. She also worked as a prostitute, a shake dancer in nightclubs, a fry cook in hamburger joints, a dinner cook in Creole restaurant, and once had a job in a mechanic's shop taking the paint of cars with her hands. In 1949, Angelou married Tosh Angelus, an electrician in the US Navy. She adopted a version of his surname and kept it through the rest of her life, but the couple ultimately divorced in 1952. In 1954, she danced professionally in clubs around San Francisco, including the nightclub The Purple Onion, where she sang and danced to calypso music. After that point, she went by the name of Margaret Johnson or Rita, but at the strong suggestion of her managers and supporters at The Purple Onion, she changed her professional name to Maya Angelou. During 1954 and 1955, Angelou toured Europe with a production of the opera Porgy and Bess. She began her practice of learning the language of every country she visited, and in a few years she gained proficiency in several languages. In 1957, riding on the popularity of calypso, Angelou recorded her first album, Miss Calypso. She appeared in an off-Broadway revue that inspired the 1957 film Calypso Heatwave, in which Angelou sang and performed her own compositions. Angelou joined the Harlem Writers Guild in the late 1950s and met James Baldwin and several major African-American authors. It was during this time that Angelou had the opportunity to hear Dr. Martin Luther King speak. Inspired by his message, she decided to become part of the struggle for civil rights. She was offered a position as a Northern coordinator for Dr. King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In 1961, Angelou performed in John Gennett's play The Blacks, playing the part of the Queen, along with Abby Lincoln, Roscoe Lee Brown, James Earl Jones, Louis Gossett, Godfrey Cambridge, and Cicely Tyson. In 1961, although not officially married, Angelou met Fusumzi Make, a South African freedom fighter. In 1962, they moved to Cairo, Egypt, with her son, where she worked as an associate editor at the weekly English-language newspaper, The Arab Observer. But the relationship dissolved soon after, and she moved to Accra, Ghana, so her son could attend college. It was here she met Malcolm X during his visit in the early 1960s. Angelou returned to the US in 1965 to help him build a new civil rights organization, the Organization of African American Unity. But he was assassinated shortly afterwards, which left her devastated. In 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on her 40th birthday, which left her devastated again. In 1973, Angelou married carpenter Paul DeFru and lived with him in Berkeley, California until their divorce in 1981. Despite having almost no experience, she wrote, produced, and narrated Black's Blues Black, a 10-part series of documentaries about the connection between blues music and Black Americans' African heritage. With encouragement from author James Baldwin and Robert Loomis, an editor at Random House, she wrote her first autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, published in 1969. The book chronicles Angelou's childhood and ends with the birth of her son. This brought her international recognition and acclaim and was nominated for a National Book Award, and it was followed by 6 more autobiographies. Her second autobiography, Gathered Together in My Name, published in 1974, which begins when Angelou is 17 and a new mother. The third book, Singing and Swinging and Getting Merry Like Christmas, is an account of her tour in Europe and Africa with Porgy and Bess. The fourth book, The Heart of a Woman, published in 1981, a description of Angelou's acting and writing career in New York and her work for the civil rights movement. And the fifth autobiography, All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes, published in 1986, recounts Angelou's travel in West Africa and her decision to return without her son to America. The sixth volume of her autobiography, A Song Flung Up to Heaven, published in 2002, the book covers 4 years from the time Angelou returned from Ghana in 1964 through the moment when she sat down at her mother's table and began to write I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, 1968. It took Angelou 15 years to write, as she was hesitant to start it and took long to finish it because many painful things happened to her and to the entire African American community in those 4 years. Mom and Me and Mom, published in 2013, is the seventh and final autobiography, and it focuses on Angelou's relationship with her mother, Vivian Baxter. Angelou's use of fiction writing technique has often resulted in the placement of her autobiographies into a genre of autobiographical fiction.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
Angelou was also a prolific and widely read poet, and her poetry has often been lauded more for its depiction of Black beauty, the strength of women, the human spirit, criticizing the Vietnam War, demanding social justice for all, than for its poetic virtue. Her volume, Just Give Me a Cool Drink of Water Before I Die, published in 1971, was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize, and she was chosen by the US President Bill Clinton to recite her poem On the Pulse of Morning during his inauguration in 1993.
A rock, a river, a tree, hosts to species long since departed.
Angelou achieved her goal of directing a feature film in 1996, Down in the Delta, which featured actors such as Alfred Woodard and Wesley Snipes. She continued her career in film and television. She was the first Black woman to have a screenplay, Georgia, Georgia, produced in 1972. She was nominated for an Emmy Award for her performance in Roots in 1977. In 1979, Angelou helped adapt her book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, for the television movie of the same name. Angelou wrote the poetry for the 1993 film Poetic Justice and played the role of Aunt June. She also played Lilia Mai in the 1993 television film There Are No Children Here and appeared as Anna in the feature film How to Make an American Quilt in 1995. She has received several accolades in her lifetime. She was awarded more than 50 honorary degrees. She won Grammy for the Best Spoken Word Album 3 times. She was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize for her first book of poetry, Just Give Me a Cool Drink of Water Before I Die. She received the National Medal of Arts in 2000. In 2010, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama. In 2013, she was the recipient of the Literarian Award, an honorary National Book Award for contribution to the literary community. In 2022, as part of the American Women series of quarters, the US Mint commemorated Maya on a quarter with a bird in flight and a rising sun behind her, inspired by her poetry and to symbolize the way she lived. Did you know Maya wrote 36 books? Besides her autobiographies and several poetry books, she also wrote children's books, cookbooks, and personal essays. Did you know after King was assassinated on her birthday, April 4, 1968, she did not celebrate her birthday for many years? Did you know Angelou loved entertaining close friends and family? She joyously hosted gatherings with frequency, and her annual Thanksgiving celebration was legendary. Did you know her skill in the kitchen was the stuff of legends, from haute cuisine to down-home comfort food? Securing an invitation to one of Angelou's Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas tree decorating parties, or birthday parties was among the most coveted invitations in her town. Did you know she was fluent in 6 languages? She spoke English, French, Spanish, Italian, Arabic, and West African fantasy. Did you know Maya had a writing ritual she followed for years? She would check into a hotel room after instructing the staff to remove all pictures from the walls. She would then write on a legal pad while lying on the bed with only a bottle of sherry, a deck of cards to play solitaire, Roger's thesaurus, and a pipe. She would write around 10 to 12 pages by the afternoon and edited them down to 3 to 4 in the evening. Angelou said she went through this process to enchant herself to help her access her memories. Maya Angelou passed away on the morning of May 28, 2014 at the age of 86 at her home in North Carolina. Maya Angelou's life and works are testaments to resilience and the power of words in the face of adversity. Her legacy continues to inspire and influence generations, making her one of the most influential voices of art.
Many people wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I try to show them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenal.